please welcome to the stage the COO of Bio-Nanogenomics, Mark Oldakowski.
Thank you for all of you being here. Thank you to Rescale for getting us together to talk about big compute and HPC. So I'm going to start off this morning with a little bit of audience participation. So it's a little bit bright for me here, so no hands up with applause. I want to know who here has heard of the terms precision medicine or personalized medicine? All right, good. So you were paying attention to Joris's talk because he mentioned one of those terms. Now, we use those terms in life science to explain a vision that we have, and that vision is to find the unique signature of the disease that's ailing you, the unique genomic signature, and to create a therapy that addresses that signature very precisely, but also takes into account your biological uniqueness. And we want to do that to maximize efficacy of that therapy and to reduce the side effects, laudable goals. Over the next 20 minutes, I'll share with you that is an aspirational goal, that we're not there yet. We have some hints of it, and I'll share with you some of those, but we are not there yet. And one of the critical tools that's required for us to get there, to realize that vision, is big compute, high-performance computing. So I'm sure many of you have heard a lot of good news about DNA sequencing being applied to medicine. There's been a lot of buzz around that in media, rightfully so. But would you believe that the most prevalent clinical testing that's occurring for complex diseases worldwide is actually test that was brought to the clinic over 60 years ago? So it requires a little bit of innovation to get past that, and I'll tell you why. So one of these tests is called karyotyping. And with karyotyping, one gathers all of the chromosomes from a cell and stains those chromosomes in some unique patterns, and then looks at those chromosomes with a microscope. Different kinds of microscopes. Here's one. But what you end up getting is these 46 chromosomes that have the stain pattern. There's software that helps you orient those so that they all are presented for your viewing pleasure in the same way. But then a very trained cytogeneticist looks at those chromosomes, looks at those patterns, and tries to determine whether they're normal or not normal. Now, the resolution at which they are looking at is 10 million base pairs. So a base pair is a unit of measure of DNA. So their resolution is 10 million base pairs, right? So if an event, a rearrangement occurs at a lower level than 10 million, they will not see it. If it's a complex set of rearrangements, which I'll show you in a few minutes, they are likely to miss it. And those are important considerations because these are the folks that are telling the doctor what specific disease you may have. And these are the folks that help to provide data to pharmaceutical companies to find new drug targets. All right, so I'll show you a few karyotypes. We'll step through a few of them. And before we do, let's take a look at what a normal karyotype looks like. All right. So you see 23 pairs of chromosomes, with the last two being your sex chromosomes. Two X's determine that you're a female, XY, you're a biological male. All the other chromosomes are in pairs, and you get one copy from mom, one copy from dad. And all of this is contained in a single cell. On each chromosome, so the chromosome is made up of DNA. So your entire genome is represented on these 46 chromosomes. And they're laid out in the way where the larger chromosomes, the ones that contain more DNA, are first, and the ones that have less are last. So in this representation, chromosomes 1 have far more DNA than chromosome 22. And within that DNA, there are regions that encode for genes, and genes drive action in the body, drive proteins. All right. The other thing to note is that the pairs are about the same length, right? So chromosome 1, those two chromosomes should be about the same length. And I'm using very precise terms here because that's how precise this technique is. All right, so let's look at our first abnormal chromosome. So this is a disease chromosome. Can everybody spot the difference, right? Chromosome 21. There's 3 chromosomes in that grouping. This is called trisomy 21, also referred to as Down syndrome. And it is a disease that's often tested for, or regularly tested for, in the prenatal clinic. All right, great. Look at that precision. You guys are all budding cytogeneticists. What else do we see here? Do we see any other anomalies? Chromosome 1, both of those chromosomes look about the same. Everything else looks about the same. It's an XY male, right? Okay. So things look okay. So I'm happy with my diagnosis. I write it in the standard notation that's been around for decades. And I write 47. I see 47 chromosomes, XY male, plus 21. There's an extra chromosome, 21. And I hand that to the doctor, and done. Great. All right. How about this one? Boy, a lot of weirdness going on. If you're trying to look for any short chromosomes, meaning DNA is missing, you look at chromosome 4 or chromosome 6. Is that just are those pairs shorter, or is it just an optical illusion? I don't know. I'm not a cytogeneticist, but one thing that is clear is that we've got this O. We call that a ring chromosome. So somehow the two ends of that chromosome got fused together during the DNA replication process and created this O chromosome, which is pretty detrimental to the patient. It introduces microcephaly, so small brain, developmental delay, short stature, among other things. So pretty bad to have a ring chromosome on chromosome 15. But fairly easy to pick up, right? We picked it up. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you all would say, boy, this is, so what's wrong with karyotyping? This is easy. We could do that. We can write software to pick these things up, right? All right, well, let's look at something more complex. And this is where things start falling apart for this method. Ooh, what's going on here? We've got a lot of errors pointing to a lot of things. Way too many events to mention, but we obviously see missing chromosomes, right? Chromosome 12 and 16 and 20 don't have a mate. We see trisomy 22. We see chromosome 5 is got a shorter chromosome. I mean, a lot of genomic information is missing there. Chromosome 19 as well. Chromosome 7, I'm not sure what that's pointing to. Maybe it's some extra information on one of those
I don't
chromosomes.
know. It's out of my mind. I don't know.
Hey, it's a female. At least we got that right? 2 X's.
Yes, it's female because...
We also have these other things at the end, MAR and R.
That's
What
amazing.
the heck is that? Those aren't typical chromosomes, or they're not chromosomes at all. They're actually DNA that was left over during the building process of chromosomes for these cells, where the machinery got mixed up and didn't know where to put it. So it all put it together, and it created kind of these new chromosomes. Boy, pretty complicated. Now, this is an actual signature for a myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a pretty serious blood disorder by itself, causes a lot of issues, but it also leads very often into a very aggressive form of leukemia, a blood cancer called acute myeloid leukemia, and this is a signature of this MDS syndrome. I say a signature because there are different kinds of signatures for MDS, and they affect people in a different way. So, boy, as an engineer, when I look at this, a few things come to mind. One is, boy, it's easy to miss something, right? There's so many events going on here, it's easy to miss something. Also, if I'm looking at a resolution of 10 megabase pairs, and I see these many events, how many events am I not seeing that are below, that are hidden under the surface, right? And are those also important to drive therapy and drive drug discovery? Boy, is this scalable, right? Imagine the trained cytogeneticists that you would need to do this at full scale for millions of patients, and do it not only once, but do it every week to follow patients during treatment. This is not scalable. You can't make that work. And talk about therapies. Now, most genes are 100 times smaller than the resolution that I can see here. So if I see a rearrangement, disruption, missing information, to me, it looks like it's impacting many, many genes. But which genes are actually impacted? Which ones, as a pharmaceutical company, do I go after and target? Right? Which ones are the ones that are causing that disease? I don't know. I don't have that precision. So that's a problem. However, despite all of those issues, karyotyping is used all around the world as a primary way to diagnose complex disease, and it's used in all of the cancer centers in the US, because there is nothing better. 60-year-old technology. All right. Now let's imagine that in the modern genomics world, that this needs to look different. That we can take these chromosomes from cells, we can unwind the DNA, we can stretch it out predictably, we can mark it with mile markers, we know precisely where they are, and then image it in high resolution, and then have software do all of the identification of all the aberrations and provide those to the clinician. All right, this is what that looks like.
Wow.
What you're seeing here is a high magnification image of actual DNA. So each of those strands is an actual DNA that's been extracted from a cell. And that DNA is confined in a nanofabricated device, going through nanochannels that are 30 nanometers in width. And those nanochannels allow a very fine confinement of that DNA where we know the dimensional properties and we can take measurements, very precise measurements between these various mile markers. From left to right, what you see in this video is that the DNA comes in its natural state. You see on the left, the DNA it's in a Gaussian coil, and it's unwound and stretched out in multiple steps along the way. And then we take these images, and these images look like the upper right hand, where you have strings with beads on them, right? And those beads are those markers that we put in very precise locations. We know where they are. And we also know the distance between those markers because of our confinement of those DNA molecules with high precision. And then software brings those molecules together, recreates the chromosomes, all 46 of them, or more, if there are more. And then the interesting things happen. The software is then able to look for rearrangements, aberrations, abnormalities in that DNA to gene level, subgene level. All right, what do we do with this in practice? All right, so one last karyotype. All right, this is a classic example of precision medicine. It's arguably the first case of precision medicine that we've ever had. And it involves a leukemia, chronic myeloid leukemia. It's a leukemia that comes later in life, in adulthood. So the prevalence of that leukemia is increasing as our populations age. And in 1959, two scientists were looking through hundreds of karyotypes. Poor souls, right? So they were looking under a microscope for hundreds of these karyotypes. And what they noticed is that for CML patients, that there was this particular signature that chromosome 22, one of the chromosomes, was always shorter, and chromosome 9 was a bit longer. And so they saw this in the majority of CML patients. And until 1973, all that was known is that, boy, if you see this in a karyotype, then your patient most likely has CML. Okay. All right. Well, that's better than nothing, right? So in 1973, there was another scientist that figured out the mechanism, right? And she said, it's not just that 9 has extra stuff from somewhere and 22 has less DNA material. It's actually an exchange of information. So during a DNA replication process and cells divide and grow, that chromosome 9 and 22 exchanged information. Now, it wasn't a fair trade. 9 got more DNA from 22, but 22 got something. And what's really key is that what happened on 22 was really revolutionary. So her discovery was that, boy, the material that 22 got included a gene that we now call ABL. So it normally resides in chromosome 9. That gene got put on top of another gene on chromosome 22 called BCR. So they got fused together, right? And that fusion caused a new gene, right? That's able to create a new protein that the body has never seen before. Now, that gene was always on. And that protein that it generated, its sole function was to keep its cell alive at all costs, right? Cells are supposed to die. These cells were not dying. Cancer. This was phenomenal. So armed with that knowledge, pharmaceutical company Novartis developed a drug that they marketed in 2001 called Gleevec. And Gleevec's sole purpose was to disrupt that protein, right? Target that protein, disrupted, cell now dies its normal death. Patient cured. Phenomenal. Precision medicine at its best, right? It only took 42 years, but we got it. Boy, we can do better. We need to do better, right? We have to do better. And so what does this look like in the world of modern genomic medicine? All right. So all those molecules that you saw in that video that were flowing through, right, in a massive way, well, the software took all those molecules for the CML patient, and it created this circus plot. This is a whole genome representation of all of the abnormalities that the software has detected in this patient. And you could see a line connecting chromosome 22 and chromosome 9. That line is what we call a translocation, an exchange event. And that line denotes that chromosome 9 and 22 exchange DNA. And if I were to zoom in into both of those chromosomes, because again, this is high resolution, we can zoom in really to gene level, we can actually see that the precise location of the exchange of information created this BCR-ABL fusion gene. Okay? And we can get this information from patient sample, from their bone marrow, to answer in the clinician's hand in 3 days today. And it's getting faster. Now, what else do we see here? Boy, there's a whole lot of dots and blue lines going on here. Additional exchange information. You see some sharing with chromosome 14. So a lot of that is natural variation between individuals. And so we can filter that out by having and creating control databases. And these control databases are databases that are based on ethnicities. And so we can filter out many of those. But some of the things that would not get filtered out is these additional translocation events, chromosome 14. And if one were to zoom in where that exchange of information from chromosome 14 happens on 22 and 9, you'd see it at the same location as the BCR-ABL fusion. What that means is that this is a very rare three-way translocation, which is a novel signature to CML than the standard 922 signature. And the reason that's important is a novel signature can often mean different progression of that cancer, different resistance to the therapies. And so it's another target for therapy. So is this better? It's precise, it's fast, and it gives insights to potential new drug targets that I can develop therapies for. So phenomenal progress. But it's not all done. So let me show you a more complex case.
Wow.
So this is a variation plot, a circus plot of late-stage ovarian cancer. You see a massive amount of rearrangement here. This is incredible. You see exchange of information from almost every chromosome to other chromosomes. You see things like in chromosome 8, which we call a chromothripsis event, which is through mechanisms that are not completely understood yet. Chromosome 8 got shattered, and then the rebuild machinery didn't know how to put it back together, so it did the best it could. And you see a massive amounts of rearrangements within chromosome 8.
Wow.
So this is
amazing.
This is
It's amazing.
ovarian cancer, where we're not we don't have too many known drug targets here. We don't really know which of these mutations we should be targeting. And so that's the other problem. So we have an effective and efficient method to discover these variations, but now we need to apply it to mass populations to help derive new targets, to help find new drug targets. And so we need to do this at scale. So how do we intend to accelerate that? And why do we need to accelerate it? Because we must. According to the National Cancer Institute, there are over 430 new cancers every year per 100,000 individuals, so new ones every year, which 160 individuals die of cancer every year per 100,000. So this is a big scale problem. So we need to provide more genomics data more quickly. The technologies like what binano has, we're able to provide 10 times more data today than we were able to just 12 months ago. 10 times more data, which means that traditional computing just cannot scale with the amount of progress that we're making. And that rate of data generation is only increasing. It's only getting faster. There's more data, and the data is richer. So we need HPC to be able to find these molecular signatures to figure out what to target with a therapy. And we can't do that with an on-prem HPC solution because you just can't keep up. You just can't scale fast enough. And so solutions like what Rescale provides allow us to really look at this in mass scale, to really provide valuable intelligence to clinicians and therapy companies, and hopefully bring precision medicine into the now as soon as we can. Thank you.
So after watching this presentation, I'm sure about this that I will not sell my shares of binano, bngo. I will buy more because this is real technology and will help people a lot. And I think within 1 or 2 years, this stock will going to be multi-bagger. So what do you think about this stock? Comment below and let me know. Bye.